housing services and budget alternatives. Doug?
Mr. Mayor, members of the Moines City Council, and Municipal Housing Governing Board, Meg Housing Services Director. The housing agency has been facing some federal funding reductions over the last 2 federal fiscal years. In FFY 2011, we lost a total of $341,685 in funding. $215,000 of that was specifically for administrative costs to run our Section 8 program. And then the current fiscal year that we're in, we're looking at another $200,000 reduction, $50,000 in our capital fund program, which supports our public housing renovations and operating costs, and then another $150,000 in Section 8 administrative fees. In order to sustain those types of budget cuts and maximize the opportunities we provide to our citizens, our goal is to diversify our revenues, maximizing the number of public housing units and Section 8 vouchers available that we can provide to low-income qualified families in Des Moines and Polk County.
Doug, what was the percentage of that budget reduction?
Over the last 2 years, it's about 20% of our administrative funds.
Okay. But what's the total budget?
The total budget's $23 million.
Okay, thank you.
But $15 million of that is passed through Section 8 funding. So when we look at trying to balance our budget, there's 2 alternatives I'll be presenting this morning. One is if we do nothing as far as trying to diversify revenues, the impact would be the result of laying off 3 full-time positions within the housing agency. One would be a division manager, one would be a Section 8 case manager, and one would be a public housing maintenance position. Those reductions would also have negative impacts on the clients that we serve because it would impact the number of housing vouchers we could sustain and issue. It would impact and lengthen the time it would take us to repair our units or to rehab a unit when a tenant moves out. And then there's some secondary impacts to the Community Action Agency side, which is a subtenant of ours and part of our operations. So we'll jump into the alternative that we wanted to present this morning to the council for consideration, and it's looking at a housing agency-owned facility. Currently, our operation leases 3 spaces. We have an admin office at Park Fair Mall, we have our 6th Avenue site office, and we have warehouse space over at the Park Service Center, which we're losing due to the Kemen site. So we're spending money on lease payments for those 3 operations right now as an annual expense. The benefits of owning our own facility, we would eliminate our lease payments, so there's a savings there. We would be able to consolidate our operations and improve efficiencies for our clients as they come to a single location instead of having to go to multiple locations for services. We would be able to do this as a cash transaction, so we can walk in day one debt-free. We do have the funding available to move this project forward. And we have the opportunity for new lease income, diversifying our revenues. I believe in your packets you have a couple letters of interest. One's from the Des Moines Area Religious Council. The other one is from Aging Advocates, which is one of our largest referral agencies, both from the housing side and from them to us. We would be able to improve our working conditions, reduce travel for low-income families. As I indicated before, we would have a single location. So when somebody comes in for a service for public housing or Section 8, the food pantry, the personal pantry, the clothing pantry, LIHEAP assistance would all be in that same location by having community action and housing in one office, in addition to the potential other tenants that we may be able to attract. And then we'd be able to look at expanded services, a job training center, and additional educational opportunities. One of the things we've been in discussions with the Des Moines Area Religious Council is they're looking at a sort of a culinary arts restaurant management type approach to expand some of the services they're providing, and they're currently are leasing out at multiple locations and would look to consolidate their warehouse operations and services into one single location. So when we look at the development funds to fund this program, currently the development fund, which are our proceeds from sales from the disposition of our single scattered site family homes, we have a current balance of 13.7. We will have future funding of $1.2 million over the next 5 years in replacement housing factor from HUD. That money can be used to build new houses. If the council remembers, you awarded a contract a little over a year ago to build 10 new homes with the first part of that money. This is future money that will be coming in. Outstanding commitments that have been made. We've committed $3.5 million to 38 efficiency apartments as part of the Central Iowa Shelter Services Program. We have
Doug, are those houses for sale or rent, the houses that you built?
The ones we're building will be public housing units, 3, 4, and 5 bedrooms, so they'll be rental units.
Rental, thank you.
Part of our public housing inventory. We have again, back to the outstanding commitments, we have $3.5 million committed to Central Iowa Shelters development, $1.75 million for future capital improvements to our multifamily units and our single-family homes. We have 13 5H homes that are available for sale. Part of the requirement from HUD when they approved the funding for this project was that we had to use those funds to rehab those units and get them occupied until we could sell them. And that was a change in regulation within the last several months. And then we also have $350,000 committed and approved by HUD for home ownership opportunities. We provide closing costs and down payment assistance, and we've estimated $350,000 for that project.
This is for anybody moving into the...
There's two qualifiers. They can either be a Section 8 or public housing tenant acquiring a home on the open market, or anybody purchasing one of our 5H homes that we have for sale.
Okay.
So then when you get down to the bottom, we still have some inventory remaining that we're looking to sell. We estimate that's about another $2.4 million in future sales, which would leave us a projected uncommitted fund balance of about $11.7 million. The Job Training Center, Low-Income Service Campus concept, again, we would look to consolidate our entire operations, which is Public Housing Section 8, our Maintenance Operations, and Community Action Agency, which makes up the Housing Services Department of the City of Des Moines. So we'd combine those 3 lease spaces into one. We do have 2 letters of interest from, again, the Des Moines Area Religious Council and Aging Advocates, which work specifically with senior citizens. And we have a letter of interest in working in cooperation with the Evelyn K. Davis Center for Working Families that is in the process of opening up their operations at the former Top Value food site at 6th and University. Basically, we'd be using their same model, but looking at our operations from the culinary arts and skilled trades opportunities, hopefully working with local unions, Des Moines Area Community College, and Youth Builds program.
And so what would be the length of the lease that they would be willing to sign? Do we know that much yet?
We haven't gotten to that level of discussion. I think we'd probably be looking at a 5-year with like 2 5-year options.
Okay.
For a total of 15. So when we started looking at consolidation of our office operations and sort of our needs as an agency, these were sort of some of the guiding principles we put in place. We needed on-site parking for 150 vehicles. We have several hundred people that come through daily through our Community Action Agency site office. We do briefings every other week for 75 to 100 clients, whether it's Section 8 or public housing, teaching them about our program. We also serve as a VITA site during tax season. The development of the Job Training Center, we would need space for that. The consolidation of our Housing Services Department to reduce our rent. We also have some of our files off-site stored at some of our other multifamily units at Oak Park and Royal View, and that takes staff time to run out when they're having to research an old file for information on a client or a request from information from HUD. And then we wanted to make sure we had space and the ability to sublease to other low-income service providers, sort of creating that low-income agency campus, and also looking to be close to our service population. One of the items in your packet is a data plotted map that shows sort of the concentration of our Community Action Agency clients. 52% of our clients are in the near north side, the 6th Avenue, Park Fair Mall area. We got about 22% on the east and 22% on the south. So one of the pieces as we put this project together, and I was working with City Manager Clark, he asked me to look at city facilities, city locations. These are the sites we've looked at. We looked at new construction, we looked at renovations, The items in green are the items that met our criteria. The items in red didn't meet the criteria. So we looked at new construction at Berglund Park and 6 in Boston, which is the Kiwanis Riverview Nature Island, that gravel lot area. We looked at a private location, Consolidated Materials at 600 Holcomb. We looked at the Drake Head Start unit on top of the parking garage, Fire Station 1, Logan Community Center, the Lomar Building, the Municipal Service Center, and Royal View Manor, which is one of our properties. As you can see, some of the issues we're going to run into, especially when we're looking at the space qualifications, our operation, when we look to consolidate everything, including our warehouse, is going to be around 20 to 22,000 square feet of needed space. And then you throw in the Job Training Center, that's probably at least another 5 to 7,000 square feet. So we're looking at about a minimum of 30,000 square feet to provide the basic service, let alone try to add other entities. We would need additional space as well. As we look at the preliminary estimated costs that we developed, looking at acquisition relocation costs, this is specific towards the Consolidated Materials building. As I previously mentioned, when we were looking at the square footage needs, Logan Community Center is about 28,000 square feet. It would house our operations. We'd be able to do the Job Training Center. We would not be able to have any additional space for subtenants to diversify our revenues and sustain or reduce our operating costs. So there would be some rent savings, but no opportunities for additional revenues to sustain the existing cuts of 200,000 plus future cuts that we're anticipating. So from the development side, just looking at the Consolidated Materials building, now we're looking at 1.5 for acquisition renovation, acquisition relocation, about 2.2 million in renovation cost. There is a sanitary sewer connection that would have to be added, about 200,000. We have IT connectivity and fixtures, furnishing equipment of $500,000. That's for the Job Training Center, making sure we have the necessary equipment and tools to provide those training services to our clients and to any low-income individual within the community. Architectural fees at 8% and a contingency at 20% because this is just very conceptual at this time.
What's the address of the Consolidated Materials building?
Beg your pardon?
What's the address of that building?
600 Holcomb.
Doug, could you go back and talk about the Job Training Center a little bit more? Is this something that we currently, I saw where we had you were talking about the partnership with Evelyn Davis, but would this be a whole new concept, and would we be working with other nonprofits besides Evelyn Davis? And what's the funding? How are we going to fund it?
It's a combination. We'd be looking to sort of mirror their program as far as trying to have job opportunities available. The funding, the capital funding for the equipment would be part of the development project. The operational support would be done through a combination of in-house and partnerships. The Des Moines Area Religious Council has expressed interest in operating the Culinary Arts Restaurant Management Program, so they would facilitate that. We would provide the space and the equipment to provide that job training opportunity, and they would also do educational classes teaching people how to create healthy meals with the food products they get through the food banks or the food pantries throughout Polk County.
So what is the actual budget then for the Job Training Center?
We haven't really identified the detailed budget of that yet. We haven't gotten to that level of detail. We've been starting discussions to look at sort of the framework of how that would go. We would dedicate some of our existing staff. We have mechanic A's that do rehabs in our public housing units, and we would be doing some job shadowing with those tenants that are looking at the skilled trades. So when we're rehabbing a single-family home in our apartment complex and we're painting, we're drywalling, we're laying carpet, we're setting in cabinets, doing that finished carpentry work, we would have somebody partnering with us to learn that job on site to create and provide that educational opportunity to them to learn those skill sets. Okay. And then there's the Youth Build program. We would be a site where they could actually do at the warehouse operations. They could frame doors, tear down doors, and get those skill sets. So a lot of it would be in partnership with those that are already existing with the Evelyn K. Davis Center and other partners that would have some interest. Home Inc. would have some interest in this in their rehabs, and they do some home education classes. We would be able to provide the space and the tools necessary to teach people how to do some minor home repairs instead of hiring out private contractors, how to fix a leaky faucet, how to repair a window, how to set up or install a screen door or storm door, things of that nature.
Okay.
Doug, how many square feet is this building?
The Consolidated Materials Building currently has about 16,000 square feet of office space and about 30,000 square feet of warehouse space. 24 square feet is attached, and there's about 10,000 detached. That has electric but is not heated.
16 office and 30
Warehouse.
warehouse?
Most likely, we would have to convert some of the warehouse space to office space. So if we look at the operational cost, as I indicated, we are facing a $200,000 budget shortfall at this time. Currently, within the housing agency, we're spending $132,000 a year in R2 lease payments. New lease income, the Des Moines Community Action Agency would be a lease tenant. They would be paying about $55,000. DMARC, based on their estimate of 2,500 square feet of office space and 5,000 square feet of warehouse space, would be about $55,000. And then Aging Advocates and some other tenants we're in discussions with but don't have letters of commitment from yet would generate about another $35,000 of lease income. So the total estimated lease income is $145,000 plus the savings of $132,000 in eliminating our current lease payments would generate about $277,000 in revenues.
Okay, so you've got current letters of commitment from DMARC and DMC?
Aging Advocates.
Yeah.
They're letters of interest, not letters of commitment. They've expressed interest. When we first started this project, we sent letters out to a lot of the nonprofits in the area to look to see if there would be interest in co-locating with us as we looked at a low-income agency campus type concept. And a lot of the letters of interest or the responses were, it depends on the cost and location of the facility because they have certain segments where they want to reside. So as we've looked at this particular location, Aging Advocates and the Des Moines Area Religious Council have expressed and submitted letters of interest because they like the site, and we were looking at.
How many thousand square feet is Aging Advocates? How much?
They're looking between 2,000 and 3,000 square feet.
2,000 to 3,000.
Yeah, and we estimated $10 a square foot for office, $3 a square foot for warehouse space in our calculations.
So they want office, or they want?
Aging Advocates would be 100% office operations.
Okay, and the Religious Council, they want similar amount?
2,500 square feet of office and 5,000 square feet of warehouse with the opportunity to expand in the future.
Just to emphasize a point here, and Doug said it right, these are letters of interest. And before the council would make any final decision to go forward with this, you'd have to get those in the form of a formal commitment so you would know that that revenue stream was going to be there.
Correct.
And you anticipate about $55,000 out of both of those. That's an annual income?
Yes. The Des Moines Community Action Agency would be $55,000, which is a subdivision of the Housing Services Department, so that would be guaranteed. They would co-locate with us. And then Des Moines Area Religious Council, another $55,000, and then Aging Advocates at $35,000. And we may have some other tenants that we're looking at.
So you're thinking that you're going to rent this space for over $10 a square foot?
We estimated $10 a square foot for office and $3 per square foot for warehouse in our preliminary budget.
Well, you probably better go back and redo your math then. Okay, let's go ahead.
So if you look at the estimated net savings from elimination of the lease payments plus new revenues, and then you have some owner-occupied expenses, there'd be a pilot fee that would come back to the city. That was calculated in conjunction with the city's finance department looking at future assessed value of that site, and it takes into just police and fire cost estimates because we do pay an indirect cost allocation currently through both community action and housing. Utilities of $21,000, preventative maintenance of $8,000, and then setting aside $15,000 a year for a capital repair fund if we have to do tuck pointing, window replacement, roof repairs, parking lot striping, things of that nature. So you'd have an estimated additional cost from an owner-occupied situation of $70,000. So you'd have a net positive fiscal impact of about $207,000, which would capture our funding shortfalls from the federal funding reductions.
Doug, what is that building on that you're giving us the information on? What's it currently assessed at? What are they paying currently on property taxes?
I'm not
How does
sure
the $26,000 compare to what they're currently paying?
I would have to look that up and
Okay.
provide information back to the council. I'm not sure what their tax rate is.
You can look it up.
So sort of the next steps is looking at conceptually getting approval to look at the owner-occupied consideration for the Housing Services Department, whether it's this location or there's other locations you want us to investigate. We have ordered a building appraisal for that site, and that came in last week, just under $1.2 million. It was $1,180,000 was the appraised value. We would like to look at doing some more due diligence. We need to look at the infrastructure of this location, check out the HVAC systems before we would come back with a formal recommendation. And then we'd have to have the public meetings with the area neighborhood association and businesses. We'd want to make a presentation to the NRB and Des Moines neighbors. And then at that point, we'd be coming back for council authorization for the city manager after we complete due diligence to look at a purchase negotiation and then the various approvals through council, as the city manager indicated, with letters of commitment from our subtenants and the other financial packages put together, actual cost, a more confirmed